think we'll get started with this now. So if it's okay, I will hand over to David Carter, who's the Executive Principal for the Cabot Learning Federation, and he's going to cover the aims for today.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. You're very welcome to this WebEx session, which is our very first interaction with you guys for the Senior Leadership Program that we're looking forward to delivering to you. We found that when we introduced the NVQH back in November, that this was an important part of it, because it enabled people to understand a little bit more about how we were going to structure this, and also about what the expectations are around it. And please don't feel afraid to ask any question, no matter how simple you think it might be. I can reassure you that even if you're the one who's brave enough to ask it, there'll be other people thinking it. So do get as much from this session as you possibly can to get the maximum use from it. So just a quick rundown. This is what we're looking to do today. We want to introduce ourselves to you, the people who are going to be leading and delivering the bulk of this work. I want to say a short piece to you about the Cabot Learning Federation and where this fits into our mission, into the work that we're doing. Talk to you about the pre-induction activities you would like you to work on before the first face-to-face day. Explain the structure of this course and how it relates particularly to the leadership curriculum. And spend a little bit of time talking about the very first module, which is succeeding in leadership. Sorry. One might argue that's the same thing, succeeding in leadership. And what we'll do at points in the meeting is ask Matt to unmute people if there's anything you'd like to say or ask. But if not wanting to wait until then, as we've said, please don't be afraid to type your question into the box in the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm going to move on and just introduce to you the other colleagues who are here today. This is whether one is a technology either work or not. Obviously, I'm here. I'm David Carter. I'm the Executive Principal. You've heard from Matt Gould. We also have with us Claire Carter, who is the leader of the Cabot Learning Federation Teaching School.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be meeting you and talking to you for the first time. Delighted to be working with you. These programs are a key part of the work of the teaching school.
And next, I'd like to introduce Bridget Allen to you, who is our subject expert on this program.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me, but I'm doing this from home, so I'm a little bit apprehensive about whether the technology is working or not.
It works brilliantly, Bridget. We can hear you.
Goody. That's because I've got my mouth next to the microphone. My role is actually to take an active part in presenting the licence provision at all three levels. So I shall be working on the middle leadership level, the senior leadership level, and I'm currently working on the NVQH. So I've got a pretty good idea of how it all fits together. So any questions around that sort of thing, probably good to direct them to me.
And I'm hoping that Susie Weaver, another of our colleagues who's a primary principal within the Cabot Learning Federation. Susie, are you there too?
I am there, absolutely. Hi, David. Hi, everyone. Really looking forward to working with you on this programme. New principal within the Cabot Learning Federation this year, but I'm currently doing this remotely from my other school that I've just finished a headship in, and fairly recently been through senior leadership and NVQH training, so hoping to bring that to the group.
Thanks very much, Susie. Can we just take a minute or two to introduce you to each other as well? Matt will compare this and tell you in which order we're going through this. But if you could just say your name, your school, and the role that you currently fulfill in that would be great. So I'm going to start in order. The first person, Chris Baker.
Yes, my name is Chris Baker. I'm a IT teacher at Bristol Met Academy, and I also work for the Cabot Learning Federation, leading the new model of initial teacher training.
Thank you, Chris. Edward Roberts.
Yeah, hiya. My name's Edward Roberts. I'm at Warmley Park School, and I'm a senior leader, which is it's a special school, and I head up the ASD department.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, James.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Pugh. I'm a partnership director for Gloucester Launchpad, and we run partnership courses at Key Stage 4 and Post 16 for 3 large secondary schools locally.
Thanks, James. Jane. Hi, Jane. Can you hear us? Okay, Jane, I think you might need to turn your microphone up or your volume up on your computer. We'll come back to you, Jane. Don't worry. Jessica.
Hiya, I'm Head of Music and Acting Head of Psychology at St Bede's Catholic College.
Okay, thank you. Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise Adams, and I am Head of Drama at Bradley Stoke Community School.
Thanks, Louise. And Ross?
Hi there, I'm Ross Gagan and I'm Head of Drama at Cotton School.
Okay. I'll come to Ruth in a minute because she's trying to set up her laptop because she doesn't have sound on the computer she's using. So Simon, I'll come to you next. Simon, can you hear us? Okay, right. So Simon, unfortunately we've not been able to hear you. Jane, I'll give you one more try. Jane, can you hear us? Okay.
Okay, so let's move into the bit of the session we want to do. So listening to your introductions, there are colleagues who are part of this WebEx who are part of our Teaching School Alliance, and there are colleagues who are not. So the Cabot Learning Federation has been in place for just over 5 years now, and we are the sponsor of 10 academies, 6 of them are secondaries, 4 of them are primaries, and they are based largely in Bristol, but we have one in Bath and we have one in Weston-super-Mare. And our goal is collaboration for outstanding achievement. So whilst I'm sure the DFE sees us as an academy chain, we think we're different in the sense that we are very localized around the Bristol and the sub-Bristol region. And one of the reasons why we've set ourselves up to be a local federation is that we see huge value in our staff working together, moving between the schools for secondments or to share their skill expertise, not just for an individual day or for a couple of training sessions, but for a significant period of time. And I think that's one of the things that helped us to decide about what we wanted the teaching school to be. And the teaching school, when we started this in September 2011, really had kind of 3 core objectives, I suppose. They were fundamentally about teacher development and teacher training. They were about school-to-school support. And it was also about the way in which we developed leadership programs to give outstanding leaders in the Southwest the opportunity to train with other outstanding leaders, but very definitely in a school-based model. So with our program, you won't find that you're visiting many hotels. You won't find that you're being trained by consultants who've been out of the classroom for some time. All of our work will be based in schools. All of our work will be delivered by people who are doing the day job and are current senior leaders in academies in the CLF or within our teaching school partnership group. So we hope that brings real credibility to this, so that the questions that you would have of us in terms of your leadership development are being answered by people who are thinking about those challenges every day. And I think that's one of the things that makes our application to be a licensed provider in this part of the country fairly unique. A year ago, the college released 32 of the licenses, and we were delighted that we were able to get one of those. And as we mentioned in the introduction, we started to deliver the NPQH, and you guys will be the second of our leadership programs, which will also be the first cohort of the National Professional Qualification for senior leaders. And I think it's important to say that this is an accredited course. There will be a certification around this, which over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, more and more colleagues will have as a ticket towards vice principal and into principal posts with or without NPQH. So we see this very much as a stepping stone into senior leadership as we go forward. So I hope that gives you a flavour of how the Federation works. Again, if there's anything you'd like to ask us about that, don't be afraid to type away, and one of us will put the reply in the box. So I'm going to hand over to Matt now for the next section, because we want to make sure that some of the absolute nuts and bolts of how this works, how you set up your profile, how you register for the program, how you secure the funding and the scholarship funding, some of those really important elements of the administration of this, which will ensure that we get off to a really good start we wanted to include that in this evening's presentation. So I'll hand back to Matt while we do that.
Okay, thanks, David. I'm not going to spend too long on this because I have mentioned this to people in various emails, but I just wanted to remind you of some of the things we need from you in order to get you started on this properly. Now, the first thing we need from your school and from you are these two pieces of information. If you've registered on the National College website and have a login for them, you will have a National College Campus ID number. Now, this is vital for us to be able to pass back to the National College to get your scholarship funding arranged. We also need the name and address of your sponsor, and that's because the National College like us to get a supporting statement from whoever is sponsoring you, and most people that will be your head teacher, just to support your application for the programme and show that your school will be supporting you over the next 18 months. Now, if you don't have your ID number, and most people won't because they'll have registered on the site a long time ago and it's never really anything that comes up, you can get hold of that ID number by calling the National College Help Desk, and it's a very quick process to get hold of that. So if you could do that for me and email the details to me at my email address there, which I know you all have anyway because I've been sending emails across the period. The deadline for this is quite soon. I have to have that information with me by the 19th of February. And the reason for that is we have a deadline here of the 21st of setting you all up with the National College in order to get hold of the scholarship funding. That means that we will be able to put you onto the cohort after that time or before that time without that information, but your school may be liable for the whole cost of the programme if we can't actually get that campus ID off you. So it is quite important. So I don't like to start off with a really big kind of deadline and bad news. And I know that does cut through half term, so it may be easier for you to do that over the half term period. But if you could get that information to me by the 19th, we can make sure that you're all booked on and the funding's all sorted out for your schools in plenty of time. Right, now the second thing I'm going to show you quickly is the community of practice. As we go through the meeting later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about how this is a blended curriculum. And one of the things that we're going to be using is the National College Community of Practice to work with you in an online atmosphere between the face-to-face programmes. It will be how you access some of the activities we do with the online modular curriculum as well, which I'll show you a little bit later on. So if you just bear with me a minute, I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay, so here we go. This is basically your area as a group that we're going to be using to network and communicate over the course of the programme. It's from this area as well that we'll be hoping that you'll set up your blog, which is where you can record your reflections and use as a learning journal as we go through the face-to-face days and some of the tasks. Quite simple to use, actually. It's very basic. Once you've signed in, I'll just sign out and show you from the first principle. Sorry about this, we'll just wait. Okay, so you go to the National College website, which is www.nationalcollege.org.uk, and sign in. And when you're signed in, you need to go to My Groups and Discussions, and your community will be in that white box, My Programs and Groups. And then you go through to that page. Now, the first thing we want you to do is actually look at your profile and update it, maybe add a photograph if you'd like in your most current experience, because that allows other people in the group to learn a little bit more about you, and you do that by clicking that link up there. And the other things that we'll be expecting you to do across the course is come to the notices section for information about up-and-coming events and also getting information from events that have passed. We'll be setting up activities for you to do based around the online modular curriculum. There's a discussion area, and I'll be running discussions across the period of the course based on things that come up at the face-to-face days, and also some of the other things around the programme that we don't get to cover in the face-to-face days. There are resources. Now, there are a few resources up there at the moment, but as we get going, I'll be posting things there all the time. And that's really about it for you. I haven't invited any of you to it yet. As soon as I invite you over the next couple of days, you'll get an email with a link asking you to log in, and it will bring you straight to this page. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that now. Okay, so the first thing we want you to do is make sure your profile is set up. And then the second is to actually go to the activity section on that site and follow the activity called Setting Up Your Blog, which has a step-by-step guide of how to set up your blog on the site. Okay, I'm going to hand back to David now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the pre-programmed tasks that we've got designed for you.
Okay, after I've done this, I'll ask you to take a pause, and we'll go through people individually if there's any questions you have about that last part of it. But I just want to say a bit of word, if I could, about the pre-programmed task. There is some preparation to do before our first face-to-face day, and that is very clearly evident on the community practice site. We've done this in two ways. On the site are two reflections from two of our senior leaders within the CLF, Sarah and Becky. Sarah is Vice Principal at Begbrook Primary Academy, and Becky is an Associate Assistant Principal at Minerva Primary Academy. So they bring the primary angle to their reflections. And you'll also see a video that I've uploaded today, where I'm talking about the areas of leadership that I think are most relevant to this post and the movement into senior leadership. And what I'm hoping that will do is it will take you then closer to being able to write your 500-word think piece around the impact that your leadership has had within your current school. Because at our first face-to-face day, one of the sessions on that day will be around that piece of work. And as a part of your reflection around your learning journal, from time to time, we want to encourage you to think about the evidence that you have that you are achieving impact in your current role. So the pre-programmed task is about looking at the video, reading the two reflections from Sarah and Becky, and then completing your 500-word think piece, which you can then upload to the community practice, either as a file or by using the blog tool that Matthew just talked to you about. Now, there are some other pre-programmed tasks around this as well, and I'm going to hand over to Claire just for her to illustrate those to you.
Okay, thank you, David. So we thought it might be interesting for you to see some choices that were made by our academy principals around their reading list, and it's quite an interesting reading list. You'll find books from sport, some business leadership books, and things that they found particularly useful in helping them to think about themselves as leaders in the context that they're in. So that's up on our community for you, and have a dip into that. It might be also really helpful if you've got a book that you would like to recommend, or perhaps something online that you've been reading that you'd like to share with the others. We can also put that up, so we kind of generate this resource between the group. And secondly, there's a 360 diagnostic review, which is something that runs through all of the National College programmes. Our colleagues on the MPQH programme completed theirs before they came onto the course. And this is very much for you. It's about your perceptions of yourself as a leader, and also about other people's perceptions. And you can choose who does this for you, and their views of you. And the idea is that we come back to this throughout the course. It's a snapshot picture of where you are at the moment, and we come back to it as we go through the programme, and you probably find that diagnostic review is changing as we move through the programme. So those things there, I think, are to help you start to think about that move into senior leadership.
Okay, so let's take a pause there and catch our breath, because we've raced through a lot of information there. I'm just going to ask Matt if we could just go around the group and invite anybody to ask any questions about that. If you're happy with everything so far, then tell us and we'll move on. If we're having some microphone challenges, then use the chat box at the bottom right-hand corner. But this is your opportunity, before we talk about the program structure in a bit more detail, to put any questions to us about the logistics of getting onto the program and the setting up of your profile and your blog and the pre-induction task. So I'll hand over to Matt to compare that bit.
Okay, I'm going to start at the other end of the list this time. So Simon, I'm just going to unmute you. If you have any questions, then say so. If not, just say you're happy.
No, I don't have any questions. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we can, yes.
Well, I'm here with a colleague, actually. We're both from the City Academy, Bristol, and I've got Steve Richards sitting next to me.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Okay, so are you happy?
Yeah.
Hi, Ruth. Do you have any questions?
Just could you go back over the pre-programmed task? I thought it was 500 words, but somebody came into my room and I lost it.
No problem, Ruth. Just hold on a second.
Thanks.
So, Ruth, that sounds like the dog ate my homework excuse already. Okay, so the pre-induction task. On the community of practice, you'll see a video clip from me talking about how this program has been structured and what I see the difference between middle leadership and senior leadership. And there are two written pieces from Sarah and Becky, who are colleagues of mine in primary academies, to stimulate some thinking about where you feel as a leader in your current school, you've had an area of impact already. And it's that which drives the 500 words. And there's a fuller explanation on the community of practice about what it is we want you to do. So hopefully that clears that up.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Ross, do you have any questions?
No, nothing for me.
Louise.
Hiya. With the 360 diagnostic review, is there a link to that document on the website?
Yeah, it's an electronic tool that the National College have put together that allows you to mark yourself against a series of competencies, and then you get to elect up to 5 staff members, so your line manager, the head teacher, or the peers within your team, to do the same review. And then you can look at that and look at where some of the differences are and look at where some of the challenges may be. And that will help you work out what you're actually going to do in terms of your elective modules, what you maybe need to focus on to improve. And there's a link to that and an explanation of that on the community of practice, which should be fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Jessica, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Okay. Jane, can you speak now? Can we hear you?
I can, yes. I'm on the phone now.
Yay. Do you have any questions with all that distraction?
Well, I obviously missed most of the first bit. So.
Well, listen, for you and for everybody on the call, I am recording this, and I'll make the recording available via our YouTube channel tomorrow. So yeah. if you have missed anything, or you get home tonight and you think, oh, I wish I'd concentrated on that bit a bit more, you can do by rewatching.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay. Thank you.
James, do you have any questions?
No, all fine, thanks.
Excellent. Edward, any questions?
No, fine, thank you.
Chris Baker, do you have any questions?
No questions from me.
Thank you. Okay, so if we move on.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Bridget into the meeting now. We want to talk a bit more about how the program is structured, so you get a chance to see the whole picture of this before we come back to Susie and myself to talk about 2 of the modules in a little bit more detail. So, Bridget, can I hand that bit over to you now to talk about the program structure?
Thanks, Matt. Overall, the Senior Leadership Programme is the middle one, is level 2 of 3 levels that the National College has allowed teaching schools to be delivering. The 3 levels are the National Qualification for Middle Leadership, the National Qualification for Senior Leadership, and the National Qualification for Headship. The 3 levels all interact in that the same themes run through them, themes around educational excellence, operational management, and strategic leadership. Within that context, what you have to do on your programme is you have to complete 2 essential modules and 2 elective modules. Now, the essential modules that are in the Senior Leadership Programme are the Succeeding in Senior Leadership module, which will be the first module that we will do, and the Closing the Gap module, which will be the second compulsory module we will do. And in terms of delivering the electives, we'll deliver the electives that are largely grouped around those 2 modules. We'll deliver those electives after the main module itself. So Succeeding in Senior Leadership module, followed by the delivery of the electives associated with that, Closing the Gap, electives associated with that. And then there are some freestanding modules which fit under the operational management heading, and they'll be delivered together. You don't have to do every single elective, you only have to choose 2 of them. And as Matt said, it is important to consider some of the areas that you need to develop that have come up in your 360 diagnostic and in your personal analysis of your strengths against the competencies framework. And that is important because one of the things that you need to be able to show in your assessment is that you have addressed those areas and that you are moving forward and that you are able to produce evidence of your competency against every one of the areas that is assessed. So you've got 2 essential and 2 electives to do. If you've already completed the Leadership Pathways programme, you can complete the qualification with 1 less elective. So that gives you prior learning that's accredited against 1 of the electives. So you'll only need to do 2 essential and 1 elective. If we can just flip onto the next slide a minute there. Matt, can we? You still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay, could you? Lovely, thank you. So, when we deliver the modules, we're going to be delivering it in a range of different ways. The core elements of each of the modules we will deliver through face-to-face sessions. For each of the main modules, we will have 1 full day face-to-face session and we will have 1 twilight face-to-face session. Now, you know, there is always a bit of a balancing act to be done with the amount of time we ask you to be out of school, but at the same time, giving you plenty of opportunity to have interaction with one another and interaction with the specialists within the course and interaction with the head teachers who and senior leaders who will come and deliver elements of the course to you. So there has to be a balance there, and we're trying to strike that balance by having 1 full day and 1 twilight on the compulsory, the essential elements of the course. So those will be very much dealing with the things that we feel there will be the most benefit for you in working with others and in working with us. It won't cover every element of the course. You yourselves will need to take responsibility for going through those modules and making sure that you catch up with other elements yourselves, and that will be part of the online activity that you'll be needing to do. So keeping your blog up to date, making sure you've done any of the readings you're asked to do, and making sure that you've commented on them and that you're fully aware of all the areas of the module that you're participating in.
Okay, Bridget, at this point, would it be appropriate for me to bring up an example of one of the modules online so that people can see what it
Yes,
looks
that'd be a good idea if you want to do that. Now, I'm trying to manage to speak into the speaker and look at the screen of the iPad at once, which is proving a little bit challenging, but I'm getting there.
Okay, so this is what one of the online modules will look like. I've actually made a start with this already, so it's open. When you first come to it, you come to it through the Community of Practice site, following the link above your Program Groups section, which is My Programs, and then you click on the link and you launch it. And all of these online modules look the same. Each one starts with an introduction and overview, telling you basically what content is going to be in each section, the sorts of things you can expect in terms of what we're going to be doing in the learning. And then each of the modules starts with the overview and a think piece, and the think piece is set out like this. And there are various things you can do to interact with this electronically. If you see something that you like, you can bookmark it, and then using the bookmark, it then appears in your bookmark list above, and you can go back to it at any time. There is so much material in the online modules that you may not actually, once you've done onto your third module, you may need to use the bookmark tool in order to navigate around some of the information you want to use. Now, you can also email the contents of the think piece to yourself, so that you've got it elsewhere, so when you're offline you can access the material electronically and you don't have to be connected to the internet. And you can also share it. Now, when you share it, you either share it with you share it privately, so it goes into your blog and nobody can read it, publicly, so it goes into your blog and everybody who's a member of the National College can read it, or you can select your group and it will give you a list, and this particular group will be on it. And what we'd really like you to do within this, because this is an enclosed network and we're all working together, is if you see something and you read it and it makes a particular impact and you want to write about it, write a post and share the blog with your group, and then everyone else in your group will be able to read and comment on your understanding of it. And that way we get to share each other's experience and deepen the learning. Okay, I won't go too far into that for now. We will go through a session with you at the launch so that you can become more familiar with it. But as Bridget has said, you are expected to engage with this so that you're doing a bit of self-directed study at home. So it's quite important that you look at that and you engage with it. Claire, shall I hand over to you?
Yeah, okay, Matt, thank you. So this slide really kind of sums up what Bridget's been talking about. There's a blend of learning. There's the online, which Matt's just shown you. There's the face-to-face days and twilight, where they'll be based in schools, and we will bring in school leaders that you can hot seat and who will be kind of bringing some of that stuff alive through their own experiences. That's one element, and another element is the homeschool activity. So obviously a big part of being on this programme is that you're looking to take that learning back into the work that you're doing, and that forms part of the assessment of the programme. So you will do a homeschool activity, which will come as no surprise to you because you're probably doing it already, like we all are, and that is a piece of school improvement work, probably looking more across the whole school than maybe something that you're doing at the moment, but which will be linked to the school improvement plan, and that will give you the opportunity to show that strategic leadership for the move into senior leadership positions. And there will also be a closing the gap analysis exercise. One of the essential modules is closing the gap, and that will be actually looking at the data in your own schools. I'm sure you do that already, and doing an analysis of that and an action plan. So I hope you see that the work that you're being asked to do on this course isn't dislocated from your day job, and therefore it forms part of it.
How many pages, just briefly, how many pages does each of the reports have to be?
That's a good question, Matt, thank you. So the homeschool project would be no more than 12 sides of A4, and that's in font size 12. And that's a write-up of what you've done and an analysis against some of the competencies that you'll have developed through that. And we'll go through this in a lot more detail with you at our first face-to-face day. and the closing the gap analysis is 3 sides of A4. So it's, you know, gone are the days where we used to have to put files full of evidence together as if we were on a GMVQ programme. This is quite sharp and succinct and a summary of the work that you've been doing.
Now, just to add to that, it is worth noting that the activity in the blogs does have a reflection on your involvement and your learning. And one of the best ways to use the blog is as a learning journal, so that when you pick things up and you gain an understanding or an insight into something, if it links to what you're doing for your home school activity and you've blogged about it, you've already written some of your final report, because you can go back to your blog and you can copy that into whatever format you're using for your home school activity report and just trim it around the edges. So the idea is actually that whilst you're going through the materials and you're coming back from the face-to-face days and reflecting, that you use some discussion activity and you use your blog to generate the small packets of information that when it comes to putting together your home school report and maybe the data analysis exercise, you've actually pretty much written it and it just needs tidying up. So if you do it in that way, it does lessen the impact of the work involved at the end.
Okay, I'm going to now introduce or reintroduce Susie to you. Susie Weaver is the Principal Designate of Walls Court Farm Academy, which opens in September. And Susie is going to talk in a little bit more detail about the Succeeding in Senior Leadership module. Susie.
Thank you, David. Okay, so we've looked in broad terms at the structure of the programme, and we're just going to talk you through now the essential ones. So if I'm looking at Succeeding in Senior Leadership, so obviously we've got the elements, we've got the introductory and face-to-face day, and the date for that is the 8th of March on the slide. And we've thought really carefully about which activities would be good to fit into that induction and face-to-face day, and then the twilight session. And very much like other people have talked about, that learning journey and building a picture. And I definitely see that as a strength of this course, that there is that time to reflect and build on things. If I just talk you through that, there's an introductory activity, and that will be asking you to think about what's been the most positive contribution that you've made to your school as a leader in the last 18 months. We'll be looking at the diagnostic tool and really getting to grips with understanding that and using it. We'll be thinking about how the programme will be assessed together as a group. We'll be understanding the significance of whole school leadership, and we will be exploring motivation and behaviours that leaders bring to the role, and there's lots of really interesting excerpts and research and reading to complement that. And similarly with the characteristics of highly effective leadership. Again, the 360 plays a key part in this, but the opportunity for you to discuss and reflect yourself and with colleagues and peers will be really useful. And then to complement in the twilight session, we're going to look together at moral leadership, so that sort of moral compass, and you know why people are in the job and loving it and actually making a positive contribution to their communities. Unpicking a little bit about what success looks like together, thinking about the emotional intelligence and the importance of that when heading into senior leadership roles, getting to grips with seeing the world through the eyes of the other. So really thinking about actually when you're leading teams of people, how do they perceive you? How does your leadership have a massive impact on the community in which you work? Thinking about the strengths and areas for development for yourself. And again, there's lots of really interesting reading to think about and reflections to do there around competencies that you know and recognise in yourself, areas of skill and expertise, and also areas that you want support to develop. And then that moves nicely into creating an action plan for really that sort of visioning. You're thinking about your ideal self, where you are currently, and sort of making that learning journey for yourself with the support of the course to move through.
Okay, thanks, Susie. Now, David, do you want to talk to us a little bit about the Closing the Gap module?
Okay, so the second essential module is Closing the Gap, and that'll come as no surprise to you that that features as a pretty key element of the program. And it's hard to conceive that many senior leadership positions in schools across the country today don't include elements around this. So this is a module which I'll be heavily involved in, because I think it is a key part of the work that I do with my principals in the Cabinet Learning Federation. And in summary, the face-to-face day will begin to identify which groups of students we're talking about here. We'll look at the whole concept of what being vulnerable means, because I think if you take it to its logical conclusion, in theory, every student at some point in their education might possibly be deemed to be vulnerable. So we're going to look at some data around that. We're going to look at the identification of need, but we're going to talk a bit about intervention as well, so that you get from the module not only a really understanding of the sophistication around identification of groups that are underperforming, but you also bring the experience that you have in your current role and some new ideas perhaps to what you do about that. So if you were going for an interview for an assistant principal role in a primary, special or secondary school, where achievement and progress of students was an integral part of it, I think this module will be very useful to you. And in particular, what we'll look at in the Twilight session is we will bring to that group colleagues from across our Teaching School Alliance who've been successful in that, and they can share some of their experiences. So on the face-to-face day, we're going to talk very much about how we do this strategically. And on the Twilight session, we're going to bring people to meet you who have done it with some success, so that you can see the practical application of some of that thinking. So I think that's pretty much everything that we wanted to cover with you. I'm just going to run through what we tried to achieve this evening. We wanted to make sure that you were given an introduction to our team and about what the Federation does. It was particularly important that we showed you through the community of practice, because as you probably realise now, that's a really important part of this. We wanted to talk to you about pre-induction before we meet on the 8th of March for our first face-to-face day. We've shared with you the wider programme structure, the 2 essential modules and the 2 electives, or if you have MLDP already, that's 2 essentials and 1 elective. And Matt has shown you the community of practice relating to this particular module. So I'm hoping that you're feeling that you know more about it than you did 40 minutes ago, and that you feel as excited about taking part in this programme as we do about delivering it. Just to close the WebEx down, I'm going to repeat what we did about half an hour ago and ask Matt to one by one unblock people. Sorry, not unblock you, unmute you, or demute you, or whatever the word is, and give you the chance to ask us any final questions or pass on. And if that's the last time we speak this evening, thank you very much for signing up with us. So we'll start in the order we did the first time. We'll go to Chris Baker first. Chris, is there anything that you'd like to ask us?
No questions for me, just thanks to you all, and looking forward to meeting everybody on the course.
Thanks, Chris. Let's go down to Ed next. Edward.
Yeah, no questions, thank you.
Good. Everything okay with you? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good stuff, thank you. Let's go to James next. James, anything from you?
No, all fine, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks, James. On to Jane next. Jane, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Just on the reports that we have to do, did they say 12 sides of A4 for one of
yeah,
those?
That's right, Jane. That's on the school improvement task that you'll do.
Yeah, and the other one was 3 to 4 sides for closing the gap, yeah?
That's it. And my only little caveat around that is that that's just being finalised by the National College, but we don't see any signs that that's going to change at this stage.
Okay, yeah, lovely, thank you. No, that's lovely.
Thanks,
Everything else is fine. Thank
you.
Okay, Jessica, how are you feeling? You everything okay?
No questions, thanks.
Thanks, Jess. Okay, on to Louise. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. No questions. I'm just really excited about meeting everyone and getting started, really. So
Great
thanks for your time.
We look forward to meeting you. Thanks, Louise. Next on to Ross. How are you doing, Ross?
Yeah, good, thank you. No questions there, thanks.
Thanks very much indeed. And Ruth, how are you?
Yeah, lovely, thanks. Looking forward to starting it. Great.
Okay, that's great. Have we go on now to Simon? Simon, how are you feeling? Are you okay with everything?
Fantastic, thanks. Sounds superb.
That's great. Good. Look forward to working with you. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much indeed. We'll look forward to meeting you on the March the 8th. And if there are any questions that you have, just to finish up with, Matt will tell you how to make contact with him if there's anything that what you want to ask him.
Yeah, you've got my email address from my communications with you. I think probably the best thing to do in the first instance, if you have any questions, is come directly to me, and then I can either answer them or find out the answers for you, so that we can keep everything going. I'll be in touch over the next 3 or 4 days with all the information you need to know about the community of practice. And just to say on that note, I know that not everybody are confident users of IT, and I don't want this to be a worry for anybody, but I'm more than happy to spend some time over the phone or at the first event with anybody who is having difficulties using the site, so that I can answer any questions and give you a little bit of training and advice about that. On that note, I'll say thank you very much. We'll sign off and we'll see you on the 8th of March.
Thank you.